Welcome, and thank you for taking the time to join us for this open book event. Aaron Nell Steinke is an elementary school teacher. He is also the author and illustrator of the Mr. Wolf's Class graphic novel series, which won the 2020 Washington State Otter Award. The latest in the series, Field Trip, was released this fall. Snow Libraries is thrilled to host him for our open book series. A book list with Mr. Steinke's print books and suggestions for what to read when you run out of Mr. Wolf's Class is available on our website and in the event listing. A link to this book list will be posted in chat at the end of the program. If you would like to purchase any of Mr. Steinke's books, please support our local independent bookstores, the Book Rack in Oak Harbor, Moonraker Books in Langley, and the Edmonds Bookshop and the Never Ending Bookshop, both in Edmonds, are great choices. Or try bookshop.org to find your favorite independent bookstore. This event is being recorded. It will be live in a few days on our YouTube channel. Your mics are muted, so if you have any questions during the presentation, please put them in chat. We are presenting this program with the support of the Snow Isle Libraries Foundation. If you'd like to contribute to the foundation, we will share links at the end of the program, or go to snow-islefoundation.org. Okay, let's get started with a big welcome, Aaron Nell Steinke.
Oh my gosh, thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you, Snow Isle Libraries and all the attendees. So I am Aaron Nell Steinke, and I appreciate you spending the evening with me. I know that some of you maybe have had dinner or haven't had dinner yet, or maybe, I don't know, maybe you wake up at this time and it's your breakfast. But either way, I appreciate you being here, and we're going to talk about comics, graphic novels. I specifically make books for kids, and we're going to talk about how I make books and kind of where I get my creativity from, how I make books, and we're going to do a little bit of drawing. So if you would like to draw along with me, we're going to do that at about 35 minutes into the program, about 30 minutes in. And 45 minutes in, we'll stop and do some question and answer. So if you have any specific questions about how to make graphic novels or about my books, that's a great time to ask the questions. So you could write them down right now as you're thinking, as an idea pops into your head. And yeah, I'm going to start by doing a presentation, a slideshow, which means I'm going to share my screen, and I'm going to pull up a Google slideshow for you. All right, so Mr. Wolf's Class is the book series that I think most readers would probably know me from. I've been making comics and graphic novels for the past almost maybe 15 years, 14 years. Yeah, 15 years. Oh my gosh. But the Mr. Wolf's Class series is the newest, and I think it's my best. So this is a picture of me. I think that was maybe when I was 2.5, and that's my best friend, Shadow. When I was a kid, this dog, a black lab and Newfoundland mix, he just showed up at our doorstep one day. I lived in the country in rural Southeast Washington, so closer to Vancouver, Washington, and closer to Camas. And as you can see, I grew up with a lot of trees around, and really I spent a lot of my time outdoors. This is my dog Shadow, again, a better picture of him. And really, I would tell him all my secrets. I would talk to him. I mean, he really was my best friend when I was young. I would either be roaming the woods or riding my bicycle down the gravel driveway. And I would ride to my neighbor's house and we would go explore the woods too. We would spend a lot of time collecting wild berries in the summertime, or hazelnuts as well. So, oh, actually that made me think I should say, I need to give a shout out to a friend who's here, a girl named Hazel. So hi, Hazel, thanks for coming. And I think a Zoe too. I want to say hi to Zoe. But the name of the school in Mr. Wolf's class, Hazelwood, comes from the fact that I spent a lot of my summers picking wild hazelnuts from the hazelnut bushes that grow in the Pacific Northwest. Sometimes I have a hard time remembering how to write a story, but I wanted to tell you that one of the best ways to come up with a story is to first start with a character. And you might even think, like, how do I even come up with a character? Sometimes I come up with characters that are based on either people or things in my real life. So one of the first books I made, this was a graphic novel called Neptune. It was my first graphic novel. I made it about 12 years ago. And it stars a brother and sister and this dog named Neptune. And you might find that, well, you know what? That dog looks a lot like my dog Shadow when I was a kid. And it's true. I decided to, make a character that was a lot like my dog because I wanted to revisit my dog. I wanted to have him back in the world. Now, when you're thinking about writing your own story, you might think, okay, I could use a pet, right? Aaron used his dog. Maybe I have a cat at home. These are pictures of two of my cats. Epi on the left, unfortunately, has passed away recently, but there's Augie on the right. And we've got another cat too. So actually, I even made a book called The Super Crazy Cat Dance. It's out of print, so you're lucky if you can find it, but it was based on my love of cats. This is a picture of me in 3rd grade. I went to Lacamas Heights Elementary School in Camas, Washington, and I'm on the right there with a red sweater, red and black sweater. I was a big Portland Trail Blazers fan. I think I had a red phase in 3rd grade because I was a Trailblazers fan. When I was a 2nd grader, I had a blue phase. I wonder what sports team you think I was influenced by. If you guessed the Seattle Seahawks, you were right, because I was a big sports fan when I was a kid. I still like sports, so I just don't spend a lot of time paying attention anymore. I think maybe because I'm too busy drawing. Here's a picture of Spider-Man, picture of Batman. These are all copies. When I was a kid, I spent a lot of time copying other pictures of characters that I liked. Characters from comics, characters from TV shows. That's how I spent a lot of my free time inside, was drawing pictures. And I didn't really know how to pose my own characters that often, so I would draw copies. This picture here, I think actually was based on action figures of the Ninja Turtles, but it's one of the first examples of comics that I had made when I was a kid. If you can tell, there's some sound effects coming out in the background. It's one of my favorite things to do with comics is to add sound effects. There are word balloons, speech balloons, so the characters are talking. One of the things that I appreciate about comics is that you can combine the pictures and the words together, right? They really have a synergy together. They really need each other. If you think about a picture book, usually picture books have the text separate from the picture. They go together, but it's not interacting in the same way that a comic might interact, words and pictures. I read a lot of comic strips in the newspaper. So back when I was a kid, I would get a newspaper every day, and it was the Columbian from Vancouver, Washington. And they had Garfield, they had Peanuts, they had other classic ones. I don't think they had Calvin and Hobbes, so I never read Calvin and Hobbes when I was a kid. But that's kind of how I think I taught myself how to read, was reading comic strips in the newspaper. And, you can still find these comics now. I think a lot of kids are probably still learning how to read with these classic comics. Now, around 4th grade, I discovered superhero comics. I went to a comic book vendor at a flea market where there was this guy who was selling comic books. I had never seen so many comic books before. But you could still get comic books from convenience stores. Like, you could go to a gas station and find a spinner rack of comics. You could go to the supermarket and get comics. I feel like today you could probably still get, you can get Archie, and some supermarkets you can get graphic novels, which is really awesome. But back then, that's how I got comics. And then there are comic book stores, which were amazing because they had everything. And we still have those, and they have everything. It's pretty amazing. But now we even have libraries that carry collections of graphic novels, which is far out and amazing. And I never would have believed it back then. But I wasn't allowed to read comics in the classroom when I was a kid. My teacher forbade it, which is the conjugation. But it wasn't allowed. So I had to hide it inside of my other books until I was caught. My teachers wanted me to read real books, right? There's nothing wrong with reading prose books. I love reading books with just words. But when I was third grade, I was still kind of transitioning. I wasn't really, able to read a lot of the books I wanted to read. So here was a book I found in the library one day. I don't really know what it was called. I just know it had a wolf on it and a wizard, and it had a sword, and it looked awesome. I wanted to read this book so badly. I tried to read it, and I couldn't make heads or tails of it. I don't know if it was just poorly written, but I think I couldn't really access it because I just didn't have the reading stamina or skills yet. I wanted to read it because of the cover. I mean, really, that's my identity right there. I wanted to be a sword wielding wizard wolf walker. But when I opened it up, I just couldn't read it. I don't know. So I felt defeated and I felt stupid because I couldn't read it. Even with my long, luxurious mullet, that would not allow me to read these books. My brother could read them. He was older, and I looked up to him. I really wish that when I was a kid, when I was this age, I wish Amulet had existed. If Kazu Kibuishi's Amulet book had been out, I would have read that book over and over and over again. So I'd say we're living in the new golden age of comics, and ones that really value younger readers. And I'm really proud to be making books at this time. And I'm really happy for kids who are growing up reading graphic novels right now, because there's just so much good books being put out. Now, how did I become a writer? I didn't consider myself a writer until I was in my 20s, well into adulthood. I learned how to write certain things. I learned basic skills. One of the things that made me think I wasn't a good writer was my spelling skills. I might be coming up with a good idea for a story and I wanted to write. So here's what I wrote in this example. Just then, Michael saw a dragon. He was so and I'm thinking, oh no, how do you spell the word frightened? And, looking it up in a dictionary will take forever. I don't want to do that. And if I ask for help, people will know that I can't spell well. I'll just use another word. Erase. Just then, Michael saw a dragon. He was so scarred. Oh, I'm so stupid. I don't know how to write. I don't know how to spell. But you know what? Everybody has an example in their life where they wanted to spell something and they didn't know how to spell it. And so they chose a word that was easier to spell. That's like called self-censorship, or you're changing your ideas. Now we're lucky today. If you have access to a device, you can probably look up that word pretty quickly, or you might even have spell check, which is phenomenal for people like me who have a hard time spelling. But I wasn't stupid. I just wasn't the best speller, and I still am not the best speller. There's certain skills I've learned. I've learned certain words. I know how to spell a lot of things now, But to be honest, I wrote this comic and I couldn't remember how to spell frightened when I wrote that word in here. Frightened. Was it I before E? E before I? No, that's frightened. So I had to look it up. Can you believe it? I'm a published author. I'm 40 years old and I didn't know how to spell frightened. Well, guess what? Everybody has strengths and skills, strengths and weaknesses. Maybe not weaknesses, but things that you're not as good at. And that's okay. Because one thing about writing is that writing is something that you can uh, ask for help with. And I didn't realize that for a long time. Most people who write things that are really great, they get a lot of help from other people. Okay, fast forward in my life. I became a teacher and, no longer am I in the center of the photo. I'm on the left-hand side. But wait, that's not a human. That's a wolf. It's a wolf guy. Well, I started drawing comics about teaching when I became a teacher because I wanted to tell stories. I wanted to write my own stories, but I didn't feel like I had a lot of time to come up with new ideas. Teachers work really hard, and my heart goes out to all the teachers out there who are working during the pandemic, all the students and the parents who've become teachers. Uh, you know, it's a hard job. So guess what? Why don't I just write about my own life? Working in a classroom and working with a cast of characters, all these students in my classroom, they all have really interesting lives, right? They all have really cool things to say and funny things to say and do. So I started making a comic strip called Mr. Wolf. This was about 8 years ago, 9 years ago, about my experience of teaching. Oh no, I'm sorry. This was 10 years ago. Time flies in weird ways. So I started making comic strips about teaching, and I'm going to share one with you right now. And I used the people in my life, right, as my subjects. This is my son. I did a comic strip with him in it. This one's for like 4 years ago, 3 years ago. And we're going to the bagel shop on a Saturday morning to get breakfast. So it's called It's the Weekend. And my son says, "Papa, come here." And he touches my face and he rubs it and I say, "Aw, that's nice. Did you want to feel my scratchy beard?" And he says, "No, Papa, I wanted to touch you with my sticky fingers." So that's it, a little short story. A small moment story, if you will, a personal narrative, but in a little bite, right? It's a tiny little bite. It's nothing like too overwhelming. So if you're starting out making stories and you want to draw comics and you're thinking about, oh my gosh, I want to write the next Amulet. I want to have 9 books that have thousands of pages. Well, I encourage you to start with something small because you'll get better and better at drawing comics if you do short stories. That's my personal opinion. Most people who want to write something really big and long, you'll tell them to write something small, but they won't listen to you and they just have to try it. And I was the same way. So it took me a while to learn differently. So years pass by. I'm doing these comic strips about teaching, and I have other books published as well. And then I decided, you know what? I really want to make Mr. Wolf into Mr. Wolf's Class, and I want to make up a story about kids in the classroom and a book series that I can, use to help my students read and to just have a fun time with. So the first Mr. Wolf's Class book came out in 2018, so about 2.5 years ago. And now I'm celebrating with the 4th book. It's called Field Trip. And if you're feeling nostalgic for field trips because you didn't get to go on one this year, or maybe you've never been on a field trip, this book is for you because the class gets to go on an overnight camping field trip in an old growth forest. I'm going to read a little bit to you from this book. All right, so Mr. Wolf is getting the students on the bus and they're about ready to go. And he says, "The last group is comprised of Abdi, Henry, Noah, me, Samson, and Oscar. And that's Samson right there. But Mr. Wolf, Oscar isn't here yet. We'll give him a few more minutes, but then we'll have to be on our way. Oscar, where are you? Poor Samson. Mr. Wolf, traffic is going to get worse the longer we wait. We should get going. You're right. We need to leave now. It's late. Here we go, everyone. Next stop, Battle Axe Creek. Vroom. It's too bad Oscar's going to miss this trip. Stop the bus. Oscar's here. Yay, Oscar, you made it. Just in the nick of time, he thinks. Did you bring your permission form? Now, this is the moment of truth, right? All students need to bring their permission forms, and all teachers really want all their kids to come, all their students to come, but sometimes it just doesn't happen, right? Thank you, Oscar. Have a seat. And Mr. Wolf is thinking relief. He's so glad all the students get to go. Phew. And then Samson gets reunited with his best friend. And off they go. So if you want to read the rest about their trip, you'll have to check out the book. But I wanted to tell you about why I made this book. Well, I wanted, teachers might ask you, what's the author's purpose when you read a book? And, I'll be honest, a lot of my first books that I wrote, I didn't really know why I was making them. I just wanted to make a book. I just wanted to draw and write pictures, and I kind of didn't really know. I can kind of see now what my point was and why I wanted to make certain things. But now that I'm doing these books, I have a clearer idea about what I want to accomplish in a book and what I want readers to read. And the main thing I really wanted to do with this book was to show an old growth Pacific Northwest forest. I spent a lot of time outdoors with my family. I grew up in a forest, and I spent, countless hours in the woods. I mean, this is my home. I have a strong connection to the specific ecosystem we live in the Pacific Northwest. It's not a lot different here where I live in Portland than it is, up in Snohomish County. And one of the things I really wanted to do is challenge myself with, like, can I draw a specific kind of tree, and will people know what it is? So I spent a lot of time trying to do that in this book. I wanted to draw, fallen over Douglas firs and hemlocks, western hemlocks and western red cedars, and there's some skunk cabbage in this picture down here. And it's not the same as actually going to an old growth forest, but if you go to one, hopefully this book inspires you to get out into nature. I guess no matter where you live, your environment, the nature that you're close to is going to be unique, and it's going to be something special, probably. That I hope I inspire readers to get out and explore nature, and to appreciate nature, and to protect nature. Actually, this place that this was based on, one of the places, the Olympic National Forest inspired this book a little bit, but closer to Portland is Brighton Bush Hot Springs and Opal Creek. Those are two old growth wilderness areas, and they were, nature is resilient. Nature will come back, but they were both, burned quite badly during the fires this fall. And, they've been threatened by logging. That's a whole other issue, but it's, these are unique places that we need to appreciate. So that's what I wanted to do with this book. I also made Aziza, the main character. She's there on the right with the headscarf. And here's a picture of me with a big leaf maple leaf in a forest, a little one in Portland called Tryon Creek. And I did a little holiday card, New Year's card for people with my family. Where there, I illustrated us wearing our masks when we're hiking because we're being courteous to other people, protecting our health and safety. And yeah, so now I want to talk to you about kind of like making books before we get to the drawing part. I think we've got a few more minutes with this part. So one thing I talked about was how I was not a good speller, right? Um, and I said how a lot of people who are really good at writing, oftentimes they get help from other people. And as a professional author, I get help quite a bit, specifically from someone called an editor. And my editor, this is a picture of Cassandra Pelham Fulton, and she's the senior editor at Graphics, which is Scholastic's graphic novel publishing imprint. So they publish, Raina Telgemeier's books, and Cassandra edits Raina Telgemeier's books like Guts and Drama and Smile and Sisters, and she edits all the Babysitters Club graphic novels. She edits Kazu Kibuishi's Amulet, the newer graphic novel Twins by Shannon Wright and Varian Johnson. And she helps, and she edits my books. She helps our stories be better stories, right? I might send her a story idea and she'll see that, maybe, like, what if you did this with your story? I didn't understand that part. And uh, it's just another person to bounce your idea off of. So you don't have to have, a professional editor. You could look to a friend, you could look to a neighbor. No, maybe not a neighbor necessarily. I'm thinking of like, maybe if you're doing classes online, maybe you get a breakout room and you have a friend in your classroom who's helping you edit. Maybe your teacher has time to help you edit. Um, aside from editing your own work, it is really important to have other people read your work and help you make it better. I promise you, everybody who's doing professional work, at least almost everybody, at least at first, they're having other people read their stuff and giving them suggestions to make it better. And I'm telling you, if you're not good at spelling, it doesn't matter. Write it out the way you think it's supposed to be spelled. And if it doesn't look right and you don't have time to take a look and fix it yourself, ask for help. Someone else will help you. You don't have to be the world's best speller to be a published author or to make stories for personal expression, right? We should all be able to make stories and to tell stories that we want to tell them. Okay, so how do I make a graphic novel? My books are usually 170, 160 was the first two books, 176 were the next two. And how do I write them, right? So I first start with a sketchbook and I first draw all the characters. I just have fun. I sketch and I kind of figure out who I want to make the story about, right? After I have the world kind of created and I know I kind of have some good scribbles and some sketches of things, then I write the story. And I just write it kind of boringly. I might say for field trip, there's a scene where the students go into the forest for the first time. And all I wrote on the page was the students walk into the forest and they see a big tree. So if I was writing a prose chapter book, that would be really boring. It's not beautiful language. It's not, I didn't write Mr. Wolf gently tiptoes across the duff on the ground of the magnificent old growth forest. All around him are hemlocks and cedar trees with uh, huckleberries growing out of their decaying bodies. I'm not doing that because I'm going to do that with the drawing. A lot of my work is the drawing, and a lot of good graphic novels, they try to use less words than you think. Okay. Anyway, I script it out, the meaning I write it. And then after I have the whole story kind of figured out, I scribble sketch the entire thing, which means I draw all 176 pages. I might make a lot of mistakes. I might draw a bunch of pages that don't work. But it's okay because I'm just kind of scribbling it, right? It's not going to be the published work. It's honestly my first or second draft, right, at this point. Once I get the story down the way I like it, I redraw it. And for me, I print it out. I actually scan my scribbles and then I print it out very lightly in a very light blue on some nicer paper. And then I just go over that drawing with pencil and I pencil it. So cartoonists will call this the penciling stage. And then after that point, and I'm changing things as I go. Like if you actually go back here, some characters change, some of the words change, right? Things change for the better as you go from draft to draft. The next draft or the next process or stage is inks. So I'm making the book to be in color. I like black and white books too, but because it's in color, I'm probably going to be doing a lot less black spots. And so I ink it and I just go over the pencil lines and I use a felt tip pen. I use the Pigma Sakura Sensei 6.06 centimeter. Can't remember. If you want to know the fine details of that, it doesn't matter. I think with tools, you just find the tool that you like. Some cartoonists use brushes. They actually dip it in ink and they brush. Some cartoonists do their whole books on an iPad. I choose to do mine all with real pens and ink, but whatever is comfortable for you, right? I know that the illustrator John Clausen did a book called Sam and Dave Dig a Hole. And his illustrations for that book, he did with like dirt. So, and I know Alan Say did a book with like charcoal and spit. So you can do whatever you want to make it the way you want it. Anyway, let's go on. This book was colored actually by Alec Longstreth. He's a friend who I hired to color this book because I was teaching full time as a 4th and 5th grade teacher, and I needed some time free, and so he looked at my old books and he looked at how I colored, and he just kind of colored the way he thought I would like it, and I love it. He did such a better job than I think I could have done. But you know, you can see that the way he colored it, you're taking this black and white picture and then he's trying to like, you know, help your eye move across the page. So, you know, up there on the top left-hand corner where Aziz is walking across this orange bridge, the bridge isn't orange, but it stands out against the forest. And I really want to have the time spent on the forest, and I want you to look at the detail. Anyway, I'm gonna move along. So that's the process for me. And, you know, there is another part about making comics and graphic novels, and that's making the cover. It's my least favorite thing because it's so important. You're not supposed to judge a book by its cover, right? Because, you know, it's a analogy, a metaphor that you can use in life, because you might meet somebody who, you know, you get to know them and they're really great people, or the opposite. But in this case, when you're making a book, we're really putting a lot of energy on the cover so that people will judge it right away and they'll kind of know what is inside the book and if they like it or not. So I'm drawing this picture, lots of sketches to do the cover for Field Trip, my new book. And I know that I want the bus on it because I want to show the class going on the field trip, right? But a bus is kind of boring. We want to know that it's about students on the bus. So then I drew another sketch. Here's the kids in the back of the bus, right? It's kind of funny when kids look out the back of the bus. Well, let's get closer and let's actually show kind of the main characters of the book. And all right, my publisher liked that sketch, so then I redrew it. I redrew it again, kind of put the main characters again in the center. but it was a little busy. Too much was going on with this picture. So we kind of pared it down so it wasn't so distracting. So there was no other text except for the name of the book. And yeah, that's kind of the process of making a cover. It's definitely my least favorite thing because it's always so hard. And it's the thing that everyone looks at when they look at the book. So that's that. But guess what? I'm going to show you a quick sneak preview of the 5th Mr. Wolf's Class book. I haven't shown this to anybody yet. I don't even know if I'm supposed to do this, but this is the cover sketch that I've sketched out for Snow Day, Mr. Wolf's Class book 5. Now, is this going to be the final cover? Probably not. You know, there's going to be changes made to it. I just kind of wanted to show you that this is where I'm at in the process of my new book. And it's called Snow Day. It will come out in a year from now. Alec Longstreth is coloring this one as well. And, you know, if you think about author's purpose, why did I make this book? Well, to be honest, okay, I wanted to have snow. I really wanted to do a story with snow. And today in Portland, it snowed just a tiny bit, and I got so excited because snow makes me excited. And I know that it does for some kids. And so I wanted to put that in there, that natural protagonist. How is nature going to get in the way of the students and the teacher? And the other reason I also wanted to shift gears and make the main characters of this book, I wanted to tell a story about Abdi and Henry and their friendship. So they become the main characters of Snow Day. Every Mr. Wolf's Class book has all the characters in the class, but some of the characters are more in focus, right? Kind of the more main characters of the book. Anyway, that comes out next year, and I'll be done with it pretty soon. I'm going to actually switch gears now, and we're going to do a drawing together. If you want to draw with me, we got about 10 minutes to make this drawing, and then we'll do question and answer at the end. Yeah, so I'm going to go back to showing you my setup. Now, I told you that I draw on a sketchbook, right? This is it. This is one of them. I do a whole sketchbook for each book. And I do really make a lot of mistakes. I cross things out. I go, I don't like that. And then I redraw things. It's just a process. And the more you draw, the more you write, the more you're comfortable with doing that. If you find that like you're really attached to something and you don't want to get rid of it and it's hard to do it, to get rid of it or to start new, it's probably because you haven't done a lot of it, right? My son's learning to play the violin. When he started playing the violin, he thought he could just play. He was like, but no, he had to learn, right? It takes thousands of hours to learn how to do something really well. So if you're a skateboarder, right, there's a lot of skill that you have to learn to do that. Anything, right? Moving around, talking, right? We put a lot of energy into our infancy and our childhood into just being able to move, right? And to talk. We practiced, and people told us if we were right or wrong, hopefully in a gentle way. People are very forgiving for kids. That's why it's harder to learn a new language when you're a little bit older, because adults are afraid of making mistakes. But guess what? It's okay. Everyone makes mistakes. That's how you learn. Okay. What are we going to draw? I had a picture of Mr. Wolf running, so maybe we'll do something different than that. But normally I like to ask kids, like, what character do you want to have? So we got to start with our character. Writing a story, start with character. Let's do Margot. Margot is one of my favorite characters. She's a rabbit, and she's easy to draw, and she's the only character that appears on every book cover. I start by drawing Margot with a round head. Let me get this in a little closer. Give yourself lots of room. And again, if you make a mistake, who cares? It's not a big deal. It's all right. Margot's got a round head, but she's also got ears at the top. So I'm going to draw her ears kind of going back right there. I wanted to draw Margot because sometimes people don't know that there's a silent T, but that T is silent. So it's Margot. What is Margot doing? I kind of have to do that next. Maybe she's jumping, maybe she's running. Let's just go with the running thing. But if you want to draw a character doing anything, it's good to do it first yourself to feel what it feels like. I'm drawing Margot's neck. She's wearing a hoodie, so I'm drawing the hood. Now, I want to draw her face. Her face is the most important thing. That's why when we do Zoom lessons and things like that, we're looking at each other's faces. But I don't know what kind of face I want to give her yet, so I'm going to actually wait. Usually I draw it first, but I don't know what to do. So I'm going to draw her body running. And when you run, if you've done it, you're going to feel, one arm going up, one arm going back. So I'm going to give her 5 fingers. She's got that hand going up, another hand going back. Now your torso propels you forward when you're running. So we've got her going forward. When you're running, another leg goes up and another leg goes back. So she's really going at opposites, counterbalance, propelling herself forward. I'm going to give her these little stitches down here, the hem of her sweater. I'm going to draw some motion lines back here to show that she's running. And then I'm going to put a shadow underneath her to show that she's running and she's connected to the ground, right? She's not like floating in space. When I do feet, I kind of do the Dave Pilkey thing, the Charles Schultz kind of thing. It's just kind of these like potato looking feet. I don't like drawing feet. I find it very challenging. And so I make it the very simplest shape possible. For my sake, it makes me happy when they're just simple. I don't want to spend time drawing laces and other things, but maybe that's what your skill is. Maybe when you draw your characters, you can spend a lot of time on the clothing. Okay, so Margot's running. Is she happy? Is she frightened? Is she looking behind herself? Is she looking forward? I'm going to have her looking behind herself at who she's running. Maybe she's running from someone. So I just draw circle eyes and then dots or lines for pupils. I'm going to give her a triangle nose. And now I can really put a lot of expression into her mouth. Is she happy? Is she sad? Well, I want to make her happy, like she's having a really great time. I'm going to draw that she's got like a tongue there. You could draw her teeth. I'm going to not do it in this case, just because sometimes it looks like it doesn't look the way I want it. I mean, I could draw one tooth there. But I'm just going to fill it in black to show that's her open mouth. Eyebrows are really expressive. Maybe she's got an eyebrow up, right? What would it be if she had her eyebrows down in the front? It'd be a different emotion, right? Okay, I'm just going to check the time. What can she be running from? She could be running from a friend, right? Playing tag, maybe. She's really good friends with Randy, who's another one of my favorite characters. Randy is kind of a class clown. She's just naturally a funny kid. She's good-natured. She does like everybody, but she definitely likes the attention. So Randy's chasing after Margot. Is she having a good time too? Sure. Let's make her happy. She's running and chasing Margot. Randy's a cat, so but she's also got these like freckles. Some people think she's like a maybe like a hairless cat. But I think of my characters as actually being human, even though they look like animals. So I don't know. I don't know what it is. I just did it. Okay, she's got a peace shirt that I'm going to draw part of the peace symbol on. Oh, hi. Here's one of my cats. This is Pele. He wasn't in the slideshow. Hi, Pele. You want to say hi to everybody? Pele is a good kitty. I'm going to set him down. All right. Hey, cat, cat. Maybe you can use your cat as a reference. What can they be saying? Because a comic, you can have silent comics with no words, but I like to add words to my comics. So what can we do? Maybe Randy's saying something. Oh, I almost broke one of my rules. It's important to write the text first before you draw the speech balloon, because you don't know how big the balloon's going to be, right? So maybe Randy's saying, come back here. Now I have Margot up here. Maybe this isn't part of the story. It's just about Margot. Okay. Come back here. I mean, this could be part of the balloon. So since she's addressing Margot, come back here, comma, Margot, exclamation point. That might look weird with my speech balloon. It's okay to draw big balloons. A big speech balloon is better than a small speech balloon, because you really don't want to make people struggle to read, right? You want to make it easy as possible. You don't want to have to get a magnifying glass. Make it big. Come back here, Margot. Well, it almost looks like Margot, come back here. Hey, that actually works kind of better. Look, I made a mistake. So if I had to draw this over again, write it over, I'd put a comma there. Margot, come back here. And then this could be an exclamation point. All right. What can Margot be saying? Or maybe Margot's thinking something. I can give her a thought balloon. I'm going to say, here we go again. I mean, yours could be different than mine. When I'm writing, I change my writing all the time. So maybe later I decide, I don't like here we go again. I want to change that. Maybe I want to have her say something instead of think it. That's why I do drafts, and I redraw and I redraw. If you like a drawing that you really like, but you don't want to, and you've made a mistake over here, but you want to keep everything else, right? You could get another piece of paper, cut this part off, put the other piece of paper on top or underneath, or tape it on or glue it on, and you can make your edit right there. Post-it notes are really good for that. Anyway, here's Margot. I'm going to give her some, just like some shading. Maybe what's the setting, right? We got characters. The setting could be the playground. It could be inside the classroom. It could be in a gymnasium. It could be on the beach. Hey, they're not practicing social distancing. Huh, and where's their masks? I guess Mr. Wolf's class kind of takes place in a world without coronavirus. I can't wait for that. I'm going to put them on the playground. There's grass. I could draw other elements in the background, like trees, whatever. But the cool thing about comics is that I think you're successful if your image is readable and people can understand what's happening. So you never want to get too bogged down with details. Some details are great. This is my opinion, but I think if you overdraw, you can kind of make it not easy to read. And part of reading a comic is reading the pictures, right? Can you read this emotion? Can you read their action? Can you read the words? It's all about reading, and reading meaning understanding the meaning behind the picture. I'm going to now switch it over to question and answer. So I think I'm going to look to some Snow Isle staff, librarians, to field some questions from the audience. And I guess now's the time when I notice I've been speaking for a while, and the hot lights, because it's dark in here and I have lights on, and so my face is all flushed. But yeah, I think I'm going to look to Jackie for
Yeah.
field some
It looks like
questions.
I'm Jackie. I am the Tween Teen Coordinator for Snow Isle Libraries. And I got to ask Erin to come and talk to us tonight, and it's been pretty great. So if you have questions, please just pop them in the chat, and we will get through as many as we can in the next 10 minutes or so. So from Aram, we have a question. What's your favorite phase of creating the book?
Is it from Aaron?
ARAM.
Aaron, cool. Uh, favorite phase of creating the book. Actually, I have to share with you what's going on over here. Here's my other cat, Augie, and he has been drinking out of my drinking glass that I've been hoping to drink water from. Anyway, my favorite part is inking. It's when I've already got the book drawn, and then all I have to do is just retrace over my lines and make them look a little better. The reason why I like that stage the best is because I can listen to music, I can watch a movie while I'm drawing. Ooh, I could watch a show. I can talk to people and draw. It's a different part of my brain than creative. And I like being creative, but creative takes a lot of energy. And I can't listen to things except for music. I can't listen to people talk. I need to be in the zone. I could talk forever about my favorite. I like it all. But inking is it's like easy. That's why I like it, because it's the easiest stage.
Greg has a question, and I don't know if you're going to be able to answer this, but where did the frog, so Samson, get the paper and pencil in the first book?
The first book. See, this is when people become even better. They're more knowledgeable than I am about my books. So Samson, where did he get paper and pencil? I'm curious to know where in the book. I don't know what part they're talking about. Like at recess? Is this what you mean? Like there's a page where Samson's got paper and pencil at recess. If that's your question, which it maybe or maybe not, I'm just going to answer it. In my classroom, I let kids take out paper and pencil, and I have clipboards. So if there's kids who want to draw at recess, they can do that. So hopefully that answers your question. If not, I guess you'll just have to send me an email.
We have quite a few questions now. One person, let's see, wanted to know if they can share your ideas, for their ideas with you.
Oh, I mean, I have a website. It's mrwolfsclass.com, and you can find my postal mailing address. If you write me a letter, that's kind of the best way. I will definitely write you back if you write me a letter. So if you want to share your ideas that way, you can. I have email. So I don't have the most time in the world, but usually I have time for kids who want to share their ideas.
Okay.
So
Ilyas
I'm
wants to
distracted.
know how you come up with your character names.
Good question. Character names. It's a challenge. Sometimes they just pop in when I just know the name. Like with Randy, I just knew her name. I was like, that's Randy. It just fit. Margot, I always like the name Margot. It just fit for her too. There's a character, the main character of, just kind of the main character of Field Trip, Aziza. There she is. So Aziza, funny story. So I wanted to have a young Muslim girl, and I wanted to give her an Arabic name, but I didn't know a lot of Arabic names off the top of my head. So I looked it up on the internet, and I didn't get very far until I found one, because her name starts with an A, so I'm looking alphabetically, and I saw Aziza, and I really liked that name. I thought it fit her perfectly. And then I was writing the first book, and it turned out I had a whole scene where Oscar talks about palindromes, or Aziza talks about palindromes. And I didn't even know Aziza was a palindrome. And my wife was like, her name's a palindrome. You planned that, right? And I said, oh. And so it just somehow perfectly fit. I don't know. It just did.
How did you pick, Levi and Madeline want to know how you pick which animals you would use for the teacher and students.
Well, I've been drawing myself as a wolf. So Mr. Wolf, if you didn't guess it, is kind of me. He's kind of my version, cartoony, anthropomorphic version of me. And I've been drawing myself as a wolf for about 20 years. I don't know why. I used to draw myself as a wolf when I was angry. I'd draw in a sketchbook and be like, I'm mad today. So I'm gonna draw myself as a wolf and I'm like knocking a table over because I am sad or something. And I don't know, fit. And then I became a teacher, and then I was like, okay, he's gonna be a nice teacher and I'm gonna make this wolf a nice teacher. I could get lazy and just do like cats and dogs, and I've kind of done that. So I have to try sometimes, but some animals just don't work for me. Most of the kids are domesticated animals, like animals you might have as a pet, or animals that might have been raised for to live with humans or livestock. So like, but some of the adults are kind of more wild animals. It doesn't always work that way, but like Mr. Maine is a lion. You wouldn't have an elephant as a pet, but there's a teacher, Ms. Moon.
It's interesting.
That's my answer.
How old, Owen wants to know, how old were you when you published your first book?
I remember in first grade, I made a book about the underwater. It was a pop-up book, and it had like an octopus. So I consider that my first pop-up, or my first published book. I didn't make lots of copies. It was just one copy, but that was my first experience of making a book. And it read right to left, like Japanese or Hebrew or other languages that read right to left rather than left to right. And my teacher thought that was the impression I got, was that I was dumb because I did right to left. And I started not to use the word dumb. I was uninformed and unintelligent because I used right to left. But I didn't know differently, but my teacher somehow made me feel bad about it. But I still was empowered by making that book. I was 27, 20, I don't know. I started publishing myself, my own books, before I had a professional publisher. But I was in my late 20s when I had my first book published by someone other than me. But I tried to get books published and I got rejected a lot. When you make books to send to publishers, it's good to know that like you really have to send them out there to a lot of different people, and most people will say no to publishing your book. But you can't think it doesn't mean it's bad. It just means it wasn't a good fit for them, or they're not ready, or they've already got a book like that, or you just need to keep trying and making something better. And so I published my own books with a photocopier in my 20s. Sorry, I could talk forever.
We have a lot of questions. We're not going to be able to get to all of them, but Wyatt wants to know, how many mistakes do you make and do you get frustrated?
I make mistakes are a part of the process. So you have to expect that you're going to make mistakes when you're drawing and writing, and know that like if I make a mistake on my drawing, well, that of course I'm going to make a mistake. It just happens. But by doing it over and over again and fixing those things, you can kind of get rid of the mistakes, right? But even with that said, every single book I've published has some kind of mistake in it, something I wish I had changed, something I wish didn't happen or didn't expect to have happen. So far, none of my professionally published books have any spelling mistakes. I'm glad about that, because most people will notice that. I don't want them to be distracted. If it's a mistake with my drawing, people usually don't really know. So I make mistakes all the time.
Okay,
And I don't get frustrated. I get frustrated by trying to come up with a story that other people like, that I can get published. That's the hard part.
Okay, that is what we have time for tonight. I want to thank everyone so much for coming out and joining us tonight. And be sure to join us in February for our next youth author event. We'll have Patrick Jennings, the author of Odd, Weird, and Little and Guinea Dog. He'll be doing a schools only presentation on February 10th and an everybody event on February 20th. Both events are at 10 a.m. In March, we'll invite young adult author Julie Murphy, who wrote Dumplin', Pudding, and Sweet Pea. And in April, we'll be joined by Kazu Kibuishi, author of the Amulet series, who Aaron referenced a bunch tonight. So that's really exciting for us and hopefully for you too. In the comments or in the chat, you'll see links to the Snow Isle Foundation. You'll see a link to a book list, including all of Mr. Steinke's books, as well as books to read next. And you'll also see a link to all of our open book events. And there are events for adults too, for the parents watching tonight. Aaron, thank you so much for being here. I drew along with you, and I'm really impressed with what I was able to draw. So thank you for walking us step by step through that.
Oh man, I wish I could see everyone's drawings. I guess if you have a family member, you can always tag me on like Twitter or Instagram. You can find me.
Sounds good.
Maybe you can tag the libraries. Snow
that
Isle.
would be great. We would love to see what you
drink
drew with Aaron. Your cat water?
No. Get some fresh water here. And thank you, everybody. Thank you, Snow Isle. Thank you, Jackie.
Thanks, everyone. Have a great night.
Bye.